morning. Good morning and welcome. I'm Emily Lungard, Vice President for Elevate Greater Akron. Thank you so much for joining us today. I and my colleague Anna Pitts support the 20 plus partner organizations who comprise the Elevate Greater Akron Collaborative. This unique collaborative works together to advance shared economic development priorities for shared prosperity right here in Greater Akron. Thanks again for attending today's webinar. This is the third in a series of webinars that Elevate has been putting together to share more with you, key community and business leaders, on what we're working on at Elevate Greater Akron and the impact it's having in the community. Today, we are diving into our polymer industry, and we couldn't be more excited. Great. Okay, so once again, welcome to today's webinar, hosted by Elevate Greater Akron. It's all about turning the rubber city into the global polymer capital. This is part of our Elevate Greater Akron webinar series to learn more about what we're doing as a collaborative. And in these webinars, we promise to bring you data, have some frank dialogue, so an opportunity to talk back and forth with you, and to always leave you with some tangible next steps. We want to leave you with calls to action on what we want to do with you out in the community. So we want these webinars to be easy, informative, interactive. Sit back and enjoy while you're off camera, but also feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We'd love to know who's able to join us today. So if you haven't already, jump into the chat, say hi, let us know where you're calling in from. We'll have two panels today. There'll be a Q&A portion after each, so there's plenty of time to hear your questions and have our incredible panelists answer them. We really do have some incredible experts with us today. So once again, we are going to be diving in on Elevate Greater Akron's Global Polymer Capital priority. But first, let me give you a little bit of background on Elevate itself. So Elevate is our region's economic development collaborative. What this means is that we have 20 plus economic development organizations who are working together to be more effective, more efficient, and ultimately create a whole bigger than the sum of its parts. In fact, several of the leader organizations you're going to be hearing from today are Elevate leaders. You see the Polymer Industry Cluster here, Bounce Innovation Hub, and ConxusNEO. Every day, these Elevate leaders and more are working on a focused set of shared priorities. These are the 4 priorities. Today, as I mentioned, we're diving in on the Global Polymer Capital priority. Greater Akron has a long-standing history in polymers, including a strong talent pipeline, industry density, and a true spirit of collaboration. Today, our region is really capitalizing on this history as the polymer industry cluster leads the globe for polymer research and development, innovation, and growth. This is what the Elevate Priority Global Polymer Capital is all about, kind of leveraging this history into innovation. And today you are really going to hear from the experts who are on the ground day to day, actualizing this priority, making it real. So before we get started, I wanted to give us a little bit of framing. You're going to be introduced to polymer businesses today. You're going to be introduced to workforce experts today. You're going to hear about all the exciting things that the Polymer Industry Cluster is working on. But if nothing else, we really want you to walk away with the answer to the question, what does the Polymer Industry Cluster mean to me? We really hope you're able to know that answer as you walk away today. Because the truth is, the cluster means enhanced collaboration and innovation for companies. It means better career opportunities for people. And it means increased growth and attraction for the region. As they say on Reading Rainbow, though, you don't have to take my word for it. I'm actually really pleased to bring in the leader, really behind it all, and that is Hans Dorfi. Hans is responsible for leading the work of the Polymer Industry Cluster. He is the leader shaping a globally influential ecosystem. Through partnerships and innovations, he's guiding the Polymer Industry Cluster's trajectory, he's securing funding, and he's leading initiatives you're going to hear about today. Hans brings to this role over 2 decades of innovation and technology expertise and experience. He's worked in both the US and Europe, driving large-scale transformation in the polymer, rubber, and mobility sectors. Most recently, he served as the Senior Vice President at Bridgestone Americas. So thanks so much for joining us, Hans. Please take it away.
Well, thank you, Emily, and for the kind introduction. And thanks everyone for joining today. I'm excited to be here and share with you what we're working on and how we're growing this initiative. I thought it'd be best probably to start with at the very beginning. And you may ask yourself the question of what's a polymer and why does it matter to me? And really, it comes down to polymers are the material of choice in nature, right? You find them everywhere. They are in trees, as cellulose, and as cotton, wool, silk. But we have also developed synthetic ways of making polymers, and polymers now are in many synthetic products that we use every day. Um, because they're very flexible, they are really everywhere where you look. And one way of thinking of them is to think of them as long flexible chains of repeating units. And these units are sometimes called monomers. And these monomers then get linked together in very long chains. And may want to think in terms of the Lego bricks, and Lego bricks are kind of the mental picture you can use. Since you can build a lot of complex things with Lego bricks, and long chains is one of them, you can design very unique properties into polymers, and that's why they're all around us, and that's why they show up in many products that you use every day, like toys, like packaging, but they also have now a big role to play in automotive parts. They're in your clothing, whether that's natural or synthetic, and then widely used in construction materials. The paint is made of polymers, and very important also for medical devices. So very broad application of this technology across really the entire industry. Now, do they matter, right? They matter because they're very versatile, right? They come in many, they can be designed to take on many forms. Can be rigid, flexible, we talked about fibers already, and paint. What makes them versatile is also their durability and their lightweight structure, so that you find them in construction and anywhere lightweighting is important. And so they're really the enabler for a lot of the modern products that we all have come to rely on. But where the polymer industry cluster now is playing a unique role is the future of polymers, right? We're looking for new ways of making them. Biopolymers is one example. Better ways of recycling them so we can bring them back to the supply chain. And also, how can we make them more compatible with the environment and biodegradable? So those are really the opportunities that we're building together with the Palm Industry Cluster. And we weren't able to show you the video, but what the video really brought across very well was really the strong legacy and history we have in the region. So, from the left, you can see we have 125 years, right? Since 1900, this region has been known for, rubber and polymer innovation. This represents today about 820 companies in this space that are working on polymer innovation. About $42 billion of annual revenue is accounted to this industry, and 41,000 employees. So it's a big part of the region of Northeast Ohio. And we're very fortunate to have very strong universities in this space. First and foremost, the University of Akron, which is #1 for polymer science and engineering. Again, a recognition of the legacy we have here. Kent State, which is literally the place where liquid crystals were invented. So the screen you're looking at right now was invented at Kent State. And then Case Western Reserve was recently named the top 25 university worldwide. So we're very proud and fortunate to have these three great universities right in our midst, supporting what we do. And then Bounce Innovation Hub, where you'll hear from later, is the place where all these ideas can come to grow into businesses. and get accelerated. So this ecosystem is really what we're about and taking advantage of this cluster of activity. And a cluster means that it can drive economic outcomes that are better, faster, more efficient than if you don't have that concentration. So you see here the examples is it's innovation that can happen faster because of the concentration of talent. It's money coming in that is attracted by the opportunity as our startups. And then we have a lot of infrastructure at universities, but also at companies. Being able to share and coordinate that brings new opportunities. Your proximity gives advantages to supply chain, and ultimately that makes everyone participating more competitive and advances the objectives for economic growth. So the way we approach this is, the central objective in here, of course, is the economic growth, and that's what we're all after. But in order for us to build a sustainable ecosystem, we need four elements here. We need a strong network of companies and stakeholders that collaborate, that can really drive the next generation of innovations that we need. None of this will happen with the right workforce and talent in place. And as I mentioned before, we have significant assets and infrastructure here that we can coordinate. So these four elements together are the enabler for the economic growth that we're going for. And so this was the initial premise of the Palm Industry Cluster. And then, through that concept, we brought in a set of cornerstone partners that have really helped bring this idea to fruition and bring it together. And from those cornerstone partners, we then started to attract additional participants and investing partners and member companies to drive this ecosystem. And we're now at about 70 plus industry partners and innovators, and we continue to grow and attract new companies. And really, as I mentioned before, what this does, it allows us to have an industry-led initiative to address their needs, their gaps, their talent and workforce opportunities, and provide opportunities for everyone. And I think the important point here is this initiative started in 2021, but it's been showing significant momentum ever since. And in 2024, we really had the ultimate proof point. We were able to attract a designation as a U.S. Sustainable Polymer Tech Hub. That's a federal designation, a recognition of the effort that we're building. And the same year, we also recognized with the State Polymer Innovation Hub. So two designations that really showcase the importance of the greater Akron region in this space. And this came with significant funding, about $100 million of investments that we're now deploying to build this economic engine that we're after. And I want to now introduce Jessica Sublett, as we're now want to talk about the investment, how we're putting that to work. And I've known Jessica for many years through my role at Bounce Innovation Hub on the board. Jessica has been an amazing leader for that operation. She has a long track record. She spent years at Fortune 500 companies, the city government, also university tech transfer, and she has both the experience and the deep local knowledge to move this forward. Her background is a JD and LLM from the University of Akron in intellectual property, and she's a very passionate person about technology commercialization, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So it's my pleasure to introduce her and hand her, the reins to talk about the business development.
Well, thank you, Hans and Emily. I'm honored to facilitate today's business innovation panel, bring the cluster's innovation pipeline to life. So I've asked a few key leaders to join the conversation today. First, Dr. James Eagan is an associate professor at the University of Akron. Prior, he worked at Aramco Performance Materials and Ascribe Bioscience. He developed synthetic methodologies for synthesis of new polymers. Next is Dr. Isaiah Kaiser, who's the founder and CEO of Auxilium Health, leading the company's vision, strategy, and growth. He previously managed testing and engineering teams at LTA Research, and he's very active in Ohio's innovation ecosystems. He holds a PhD in material science and engineering from the University of Akron. Next is Katie Kelley, who is a communications specialist at Akron Rubber Development Laboratory, commonly known as ARDL. Katie brings her experience as an LPN in real estate to represent ARDL, a leading international laboratory dedicated to providing testing, development, and problem-solving services to all facets of the rubber and plastics industries, headquartered right here in Summit County in Barbato since 1962. And finally, last but not least, is Aaron Spring, who is the Senior Director of Global Product Strategy and Planning at the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, overseeing the portfolio's architecture, product line simplification, and strategic planning. Previously, Aaron led Goodyear's Global Material Science Organization, developing advanced materials and pioneering innovative solutions for the next generation of sustainable products. Aaron also serves as the co-chair of the Polymer Industry Cluster. So welcome to this group. To kick off our conversation, we are going to take a look at the innovation pipeline, which is something that's very familiar in my world, but might not be for everyone else. So the Polymer Industry Cluster brings together companies to increase their opportunities for success and to accelerate innovation. Innovation can often sound like a buzzword. What does it mean? Does it mean nothing? Well, innovation, by definition, is the process of turning ideas into real-world value. So it's more than research and invention. Innovation moves concepts into products, processes, and solutions that people and markets actually use. And innovation does not happen in isolation. While breakthroughs may start in research labs, collaboration accelerates what's possible. So the Polymer Industry Cluster brings together manufacturers, suppliers, and end users to move ideas forward. Each business plays a role along the pipeline, from early R&D to prototyping, scaling, and full commercialization. The innovation pipeline helps illustrate how innovations move through each stage and where companies operate at each stage. So you can sort of see that there might be some R&D research happening at the University of Akron, and then at commercial scale, you think about tires that are produced by companies like Goodyear. So knowledge flows across the cluster and along this pipeline so that insights from customers, production, and research continuously inform and improve the next generation of polymer innovation. Coordinated efforts across the cluster help move ideas across the pipeline faster and smarter. So essentially, the collaboration shortens time to market. Shared challenges accelerate shared solutions. So when companies work together, they solve technical barriers faster, they reduce the risk of bringing new products to market, and they collectively solve real-world global scale problems like sustainability. So to bring the innovation to pipeline to life, our panel is going to answer some questions and be available for questions for you all as well. So to start things off, maybe we can start simple in plain language. What does you and your company do with polymers, and where might we encounter your work in everyday life? Maybe we'll start with James.
Great. Thanks, Jessica. So at the University of Akron, we focus on teaching polymers and then researching polymers. So we'll do everything from introducing the concept of polymers to incoming undergraduates or through high school outreach, all the way up to performing cutting edge research and pushing the limits of what they can do. A lot of our research focuses on next generation plastic recycling, advanced material applications for things like wind turbines, energy storage, filtration devices that can help create a more sustainable future. And then we also work on things like smart materials. So think polymers that you haven't quite encountered yet, things that can remember their shape and can be changed from hard materials to soft materials upon a stimulus. So really next generation type technologies.
We'll move through the pipeline and go next with Isaiah.
Thanks, Jessica. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Isaiah, founder and CEO of Auxilium Health. We an early stage venture. I did a PhD at Akron and then spun it out. So we really are at the core a biopolymer company, specifically polysaccharides. Take these biopolymers, we design these materials to really support tissue regeneration and infection prevention. So hopefully you don't experience the materials that we develop, but maybe one of your loved ones will. So we take these materials that are naturally derived from sources like cellulose or chitosan, starch-based polymers, or even other sugar-based systems, and then we leverage really their intrinsic benefits, whether it's biocompatibility, antimicrobial, cell interaction, and then again we take these and engineer them to really help tissue heal while making it harder for bacteria to survive.
Thanks. Katie.
Hi, everybody. Katie Kelley here, and I work at Akron Rubber Development Laboratory. And what we do here is we get to see the polymer industry from every facet and every perspective and every lens. It's a family company started by my grandfather in 1962. So we have a lot of experience, and our technical advisors are some of the world's greatest researchers and scientists that I get to work with every day. Their goal is to help supply knowledge, supply solutions to the industry, and be the silent author that lifts the industry up.
Hi, Erin.
All right, thank you. Really nice to be here today. Get to talk about one of our favorite subjects. So, of course, polymers is a primary material used in tires, whether it is kind of synthetic polymers where we can truly design how they impact the end performance of a tire. So, making a tire last longer, for example, or have better fuel economy or have better traction. As well as working with nature's polymer, working with natural rubber, which provides really significant durability properties to our tire products, so that tires can perform hopefully Goodyear tires on all your vehicles that you're getting to and from work, keeping your family safe on the road, as well as several other industries that we serve, like the aviation industry, trucking agency or trucking industry, and many other vehicle types. So that's been working, of course, well over 125 years, not myself, but Goodyear, on transforming these materials, and really gets us excited about, okay, how do we continue to push our product performance? How do we make these materials more efficient and more sustainable for the next generation?
Great, thank you. So this next question, feel free anyone to jump in, but the idea of a cluster can feel very abstract. What does collaboration actually look like for you as a member of the polymer industry cluster?
Yeah, so I'll start here. So as an academic partner, we're really early in the technology stage. So we might develop a solution that can be adopted by an advanced company, but if we're doing cutting edge research and it's a new product entirely, it's a long road for it to make a societal impact. And so the universities, we can make these discoveries, but we really need that next stage, like what Isaiah is doing, where we can take these technologies out of the university and start to think about how to build a business out of them. And so in that way, a cluster is really critical, because it allows us to work with more advanced partners and potential customers. The other way that we interact as a cluster, as universities, we have some very advanced state-of-the-art testing equipment and facilities. This includes things like microscopies that a single company wouldn't invest in, or a smaller partner might not be able to afford, but we can provide these multi-million-dollar instruments at relatively small testing fees. And that's a really important way to move technologies forward in the space.
And I guess I'll add to that. Thanks, James. I think from, Goodyear's perspective, participating in having first a cluster like this available in the region and getting to participate and lead is really important to our innovation and product development strategies. I think we recognize that we aren't going to create all of the next innovations for our industry on our own. And, we really want to be able to, work with the best of the best, as I think Jessica and Hans has mentioned that we have in the region, being able to get line of sight to some of those early technologies, work with the university or emerging companies to shape the offer, provide feedback, maybe provide inspiration as well, because they're going to be integral to the future of our business. So I think that is really key. Being able to recognize can't do it all alone. Tons of smart people and companies out there that we want to be able to interact with and collaborate to get new innovations through the pipeline.
Katie, maybe you can speak a little bit to workforce development and talent. Obviously, we have a panel about that, but maybe how the cluster supports that.
Yeah, so for me, the cluster and ARDL, it's workforce development is so critical because the average age in the industry is, their mid-60s, and there is this huge knowledge transfer that needs to happen. And so opportunity is found everywhere. With the cluster and the group of people that you get to be around, it's really cool because those conversations turn into huge impactful things sometimes, and it's where your neighbors are, the people that you work with, and you get to be around your community, and that's what's really important for me and ARDL, to make sure that we're in the community helping to transfer the knowledge that needs to get out into the world.
Isaiah, maybe you can speak to the value that for a startup of why you might want to be engaged in the cluster.
Yeah, of course. I think, going off of what Dr. Eagan said, us being so young and early, we can't afford, some of these equipments that we need. And we do a lot of imaging, a lot of microscopy here at our company. So we leverage a lot of the partnerships. And I think, in general, the ecosystem, there's not many places you can go across the world, to where there's this type of polymer knowledge that's concentrated here, to where you go to an event and you run into someone who maybe just retired from, 45 years in the industry. So there's a lot of expertise, resources that, again, for us being early, as we're moving through growing and scaling, really become instrumental for us to continue to move forward, and work a lot with UA and the resources they have there, and of course, us being a spin out, that helps as well, but it's just been a huge benefit for us as we're continuing to grow.
So we showed that innovation pipeline earlier, and we know that it takes a lot to move through this pipeline. Isaiah's living this right now with moving his startup through that pipeline. And so maybe you can speak a little bit to how innovation is happening in your space right now. You're all each in maybe some unique industries, and why that matters for both the cluster and the industry that you're in today.
I'll keep with the order. So we virtually stop at the proof of concept at the university. And so we can come up with some pretty exciting lab demos, but then if you want to try to engage a customer with a prototype, it usually goes a little further than we're usually missioned to do. And so that's where the pipeline really helps us. And so I have to share, I've shared a lot about what we've been doing over the last 6 months to some of my peers at other institutions, and they're dying for something like this. They've tried to create these sort of innovation pipelines and clusters, or they've tried to create pilot facilities like what you'll hear about, and they always don't quite have the right level of buy-in from industry and academia and startups. And that's something that I've found very unique about what we're doing here and what Akron has been able to put together. So I think it's a real important activity for us.
I think to add, I think first off, if we think about some of the challenges that we're working on as an industry, From Goodyear's perspective, we are still working towards, how do we set up our supply chain, I would call it, for the next 100+ years. The majority of our materials are typically sourced from the petrochemical industry. So whether it is building more resiliency and options in the supply chain, whether it is reducing our carbon footprint, reusing materials, it's really important for the long-term sustainability and really just the right choices to be made, as well as an opportunity if we're able to show that early, to differentiate ourselves as an offering as a business. So those are some of the big challenges that we have to tackle, and we need more than ourselves to do, as I mentioned before. And so then it's, where do you engage, where you have this vibrant innovation ecosystem, touching, James, on some of the things that you said, where we're attracting new ideas, people wanting to turn them into businesses. At the same time, we want to sample something and see how it works in our product. And oftentimes it's really hard to even, be able to create, let's say, that sample that's large enough for us to start to see how it interacts with our product. So being able to have some of the assets of the university to help with samples, as well as, we'll get to this later, a facility where you can start to scale up your innovation, really helps you interact with a large company like ourselves that we want to get our hands on something. So I think what you'll see, and hopefully a takeaway from this, is building all the assets, capabilities, talent for that vibrant innovation ecosystem, and they're targeted at these big challenges that I mentioned that are definitely in the tire industry, but it's not unique to other industries where rely on a significant supply chain of different types of materials.
Yeah, and Isaiah, maybe you can speak to the healthcare space, which is a little, unique to your company, but there's a lot of polymer innovation happening in healthcare, and what you're building, and how the cluster is supporting that growth.
Yeah, of course. I always tell everyone that I think Northeast Ohio has a competitive advantage, when it comes to healthcare, polymers, and even some of the manufacturing history we have here. So, building here makes sense, for us. And when I think about the innovation, we do a lot of research and development in the wound space. And for wound, we're talking wounds that are not healing. So like diabetic foot ulcers, pressure ulcers, venous ulcers. Again, hopefully wounds that none of you would ever have to experience. But today, every 20 seconds, someone loses a limb from a diabetic foot ulcer. So we know this is a big problem. And when we look at healthcare as a whole, we see a lot of innovation in different areas, but not a lot of innovation in wound. So, we've done some innovation with like harvesting skin or harvesting things to help some of these wounds heal, but we see the problem is still persisting. So, for those amputees, the 5-year mortality rate can be as high as 60%, which is higher than some cancers. So really the industry is ripe for innovation, and we see shifts as high as the regulatory, level, down to, pure innovation. And for us, it's how can we, leverage polymers and materials to begin to shift into innovation in this wound space. And for our ecosystem here in the cluster, I think we just have a great opportunity to leverage this technology, leverage our experience to drive innovation. And as we talk about a lot, innovation drives economic development. And I just think it's such an exciting time in the healthcare side, especially in the polymer space. And we are, hoping to help lead that charge.
Great. So for everyone then, looking ahead 5 to 10 years, what does success for Greater Akron as a global polymer hub look like? And why should our community care about this?
Yeah, so to me, it's about building sustained growth. We don't want to have a burst of excitement that peters out. So to me, that looks like establishing things like commercial licenses and internships and having that become more of a norm, and really driving the university researchers to approach use-inspired problems. Instead of only focusing on fundamental research that can fuel new ideas, but also helping to solve some of these critical challenges that frankly need to get solved immediately. So I think that's what sustained growth will look like.
I think adding on to that, I like the terminology is sustained growth. I think, number one, ensuring that we're continued to be recognized as the place to come for polymer innovation, no matter the industry that you're in. Which means that what that looks like is, we're oversubscribed to our accelerator, synthesis accelerator program, and we're, bringing in more and more companies. Number two, those companies are graduating, and we're bringing in investment dollars into the community to help accelerate and scale them. And I think overall, that would result in further economic development in the area and jobs that are available, which is, why this really matters for the community.
For ARDL, what we see in 5 to 10 years and hope to see is that the economic factor of the polymer industry is already the thing that has sustained the greater Akron area for decades, and that it continues on to support the small businesses, the local businesses, the startup businesses, that it will be able to incorporate all the different types of polymer sectors and be the cluster it's meant to be, and have that continued open consortium and working together to solve the biggest problems. And maybe that's sustainability, maybe that's wound care, maybe that's having like a tire that lasts 10 years. I don't know, but I'm here for it. So
Yeah, this is a great question. So when I think about this and what success looks like, it's really, again, us becoming this polymer innovation ecosystem, all right, and not just a region with, polymer history. And for us, I think our legacy here isn't just history, right? But it's infrastructure for the next generation. So when we look at all the work that we've done, it's, how do we leverage this and really take this forward? And when I use the word ecosystem or, cluster or hub, I think about this and really like it's a system in which we can survive. I think of early stage companies, it's really, how can we leverage other players in the ecosystem? How are later stage players supporting early stage? And then, those early stage companies eventually become later stage and give back. And I think for us, being able to get into that position to where we're, pouring into innovation, and then that innovation grows and pours back, and we create this cycle and this ecosystem to where we're surviving and we're thriving. I think, that's really what puts us, into this, polymer innovation ecosystem.
Well, thanks, panel. I think we can open it up to questions. We did have a question from Todd in the chat, and maybe James and Hans can take a stab at answering that question, and then we would welcome additional questions.
Yeah. So Todd asks about the importance of pultrusion and pultruded composites in a market segment for polymer activities. And I wanted to say, for Todd, we should definitely chat. We just recently toured Kent Pultrusion as a manufacturing site for some of our pultruded composites. Some of the research activities happening in the cluster are on dynamic or cleavable thermosets. And so I think you would agree that pultrusion is the key to building the next generation of energy infrastructure in this country and lightweight vehicles. And I mean, it's a really important technology. Unfortunately, a lot of those thermosets can't be reformed or recycled, and those fibers are lost at the end of use. And so we're developing technologies that allow us to recycle the resins, recycle the fibers, and also hopefully lower the cost and improve the performance of them. So I hope that we can connect after this conference and really find some avenues to work together.
Yeah, to build on what James just said, right? I think this is the power of the network in action, right? We're trying to build a network here that where these kind of opportunities bubble up, and we collaborate to drive this forward. So with that said, right, our focus is very broad, right? It's polymer adjacent technologies and solutions, manufacturing technologies, verticals, raw materials, end of life. It's a very broad portfolio. So we're always looking for new participants that we can collaborate with, that we can connect to the right partners. So, please reach out to me, reach out to James. Any of you on the call really that want to learn more, we're happy to talk to you. And coincidentally, tomorrow we have a networking event here in Akron. It's if you can still join us, be happy to have you there. And we have about 130 people registered right now. So this is also an opportunity for you to get to know who is in the network and how you could be part of it. So wanted to put that pitch in.
Great, thank you. We have a couple minutes left. I think the networking reception is a great opportunity to share with this group of I've seen folks from all different backgrounds come to the polymer networking receptions because you don't know how many different industries intersect. I mean, our financial institutions and our professional service provider firms also support this vibrant industry. So maybe as we have a couple minutes, I might leave you all with a question of what challenges might lie ahead, but what opportunities do we have with this cluster to address some of those challenges?
I can start. I'll start really quick. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I mentioned some of the challenges as an industry before. I think those are all things that we can gather together to start to tackle. I think one of the challenges is, as a community, some of this will take some time to come together. We have fantastic traction. Really appreciate everyone on this call. I mean, over 130 people registered for tomorrow night. So the ask would just be to lean in, and there's other challenges that for the industries out there that we can solve together. So we are always open to hearing what those are and hearing how we can support them.
So I would say that one of the largest challenges that we are already tackling is the workforce development, and all of these new technologies, all of the businesses, everyone coming here is all for nothing if we don't have the workforce that's there, and we don't have a megaphone just shouting out the opportunities. So I think it's really important as a community that we can spread the word and show that you don't have to be a chemist or, a scientist or a researcher, that you could be a nurse just like me and all of a sudden want to find yourself in the rubber industry. So it's showing that there is the opportunity, and workforce development is the opportunity.
Yeah, I see Courtney's question as well, and I think this is also a challenge: is how do we continue to grow our industry in the face of both regulations and also legitimate concerns about polymer pollutants, right? Microplastics are scary, and a lot of that. From the research level where we are at the university, right? There's a lot of research being done on exactly where these plastics are, how much of them, accurate quantification and identification of them, but also remediation. So how do we get these out of the environment with next generation filtration devices and material designs so that the next generation of polymers don't persist as microplastics for hundreds of years. So it's a very complex and multifaceted problem, but also a huge opportunity to help improve, the planet and our environment.
Yeah, thank you, James. And I would add that in our initial Synthesis cohort, which is our startup accelerator program, there are several recycling technologies in there designed to that have created startups to address that challenge at the same time that there are new materials innovations to, not put those products out in the environment moving forward. So it's an industry-wide challenge for sure. So I think we are out of time on our segment, so I will hand the reins back to Hans. Thank you all for participating, and thanks for listening and your great questions, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, Jessica, and thank you to the Business Innovation Panel. As I said at the beginning, right, innovation drives economic growth, but we need to have the right talent in place. We need to have jobs. We need to create the right workforce and provide opportunities for everyone. So our next segment is to focus on workforce and with a panel led by Jean Barbato. It's my pleasure to introduce Jean. She is the director of ConxusNEO and all the workforce initiatives supporting the palm industry cluster. And prior to that role, Jean has had 15 years of experience in higher education and also 35 years experience as a small business owner. So it's my pleasure to turn it over to Jean now.
Hans. Like he said, hi everyone. I'm Jean Barbato with ConxusNEO. We are the workforce initiative for the Greater Akron Chamber, and that includes being the lead for all things workforce development for the polymer industry cluster. So we're going to talk about part of the workforce development that I think is a fun part is trying to get that future talent pipeline ready for all of the work, all of the in-demand positions that we've got coming up here in the region. So the polymer industry cluster connects educators and trainers with industry to prepare students and workers for this high growth and the high impact careers in polymers. And they're doing that right here in Greater Akron. We do that by partnering with the schools. We're aligning curriculum with industry needs. We are bringing polymers to life through lab tours, hands-on demonstrations, and more. And of course, we're trying to spark that interest. We're fueling curiosity amongst our K through 12, and we're connecting students to this growing industry. So they're working right now with Akronites of every age to expose them to polymers and to build this career pathways that are right for them for the industry. So they're also providing that work-based learning and the upskilling that's needed in the area. So I'm honored to be joined by those that are working every day to connect our residents with these polymer careers. And our panelists are Laura DiCola. She is the Senior Program Officer for Education at the GAR Foundation. It's a local foundation that helps Akron become smarter, stronger, and more vibrant. Laura's role is to refine and lead the implementation of the foundation's education strategy. Welcome, Laura. Dominique Waters. He is the founder of the Akron Sneaker Academy. This is a nonprofit that's dedicated to empowering youth through innovative education and pathways to careers in STEAM industries. Welcome, Dominique, to the panel. Next, we're going to have Megan Sevastos, who is the project manager at Jobs for Ohio Graduates. We all call them JOG. It is a one-stop success shop for leadership development, social services, graduation, and employment opportunities to prepare the next generation to succeed at work. And then finally, we are going to welcome back James Eagan from the University of Akron. So welcome, everyone. So first thing I think we want to maybe touch on is when people hear the word polymers, they may think it's something that's highly technical. And I think that was kind of brought up even in one of our former segments here. So what kind of jobs actually exist in this industry, and what kind of skills are most in demand right now?
So I'll start by sharing that most of our graduates do end up in technical positions. Think about people who mix rubber, operate the equipment, and also design and test products. So a lot of the skill sets require some degree of characterization and understanding of what your product is in order to design it and use it properly. But the industries that are really growing rapidly include things like recycling. And so recycling of plastics and paints, the composites industry is rapidly growing as well. And being able to understand your products and how to test them really is valuable. Even if you're not an expert, a good understanding really helps to empower our workforce.
On my side of things, Jobs for Ohio's graduates is partnering with the Polymer Industry Cluster through Connexus and the Greater Akron Chamber to connect individuals to a wide range of entry-level positions, meaning jobs that require little or no previous experience in the industry. So it's a little bit different than the university career path. Our work is mostly focused on the testing and production side. For example, one of the most in-demand careers is industrial maintenance. Basically, you're a mechanic for those machines making everything. It's highly sought after from most companies that we speak to. Other jobs include material handling, testing to ensure consistency, and others just assisting in the various roles so they can learn them on the job. Some other jobs do require technical training, like industrial maintenance, while others focus on finding just the right skills and mentality to learn and train. The skills we hear most often are things like problem solving and communication skills and just being willing to learn, and bonus points if they're mechanically inclined, because a lot of these jobs are more on that mechanically inclined side of things. But if someone has these skills and are willing to learn, many companies that we've started speaking with are happy to train on the job, especially because they can train them on their machines with their products and what makes sense for them. So you don't need to know all of the technical background to get into that field on these types of jobs, which is fantastic.
Thanks, Eagan.
I think Hi, I think that just to add to the part around that question around just the language around polymers, I do think it's very, of course, scientific, but also people have a very singular mindset around polymers when quite honestly, it touches everything in our community. And it's also something that we all share. So I think this initiative could be something brilliant to really rally our community behind because it touches every facet of our life. And when it comes to the Sneaker Academy, I'm trying to make polymers cool, make them hip, make them exciting for our young people because there's a lot of science and materials in our sneakers. But I think the other thing that's needed for the workforce is that it has to be rooted in identity as well. We have to have that personal development with our young people so they understand what it means to be professionals in their community too. So that's a needed asset when it comes to investing in our next generation of workforce.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks, Dominique. And I can attest to he does absolutely make polymers seem cool and fun for the kids. So thank you for that. So next question, I'm actually going to put this one towards maybe Laura to answer first, and then Dominique, if you'll come chime in again too. So long before we were thinking about the workforce, we were thinking about early exposure and awareness, connecting children to polymers in fun, creative ways. So how early can and are we sharing polymers and the idea of polymer-related careers with our school-aged children?
Good morning, everybody. Or I guess it's afternoon by now. We are, in a nutshell, answering that question as young as preschool, I would say, Jean. Exciting things are happening all across the region through many fun-filled events, workshops, summer camps, and other community-based programming that introduces kids really as young as 2 and 3 to polymers in fun, creative ways. I'll give you one example of that. Our community partner, Akron Children's Museum, is a great example of a learning partner that is infusing polymer-related concepts into its existing programs, workshops, and through dedicated community events like Polymer Palooza that combine learning with fun to build skills and raise awareness for our very youngest learners and their families around basic concepts and basic themes that relate to polymers. But once the kids reach school age beyond those really early years, there's an even greater opportunity to embed this kind of learning right into the school day to ensure that really every single child is exposed to these concepts from the very earliest days. So I'll give you an example of that is happening right here with Akron Public Schools and in close partnership with Weathervane Community Playhouse. They are working to introduce third graders to polymers through believe it or not, a theater polymer mashup. So this school year, all 1,500 plus APS third graders attended a full day polymer experience where they learned about polymers in very concrete, fun ways, how polymers bring a storytelling experience to life. So they attended interactive experiences where they learned about polymers through a lighting lab, through how costumes and wigs build polymer concepts into place, and even soft science skills about the nature of polymers through a polymer dance where they were linking arms and learning about some scientific concepts around polymers. And then finally watching even right in action, a 3D printer printing props that are used in that theater experience. And so all of this learning through a full day on-site experience that's connecting those dots and building that project-based learning and inquiry-based learning skills that Megan talked about that employers want, that's reinforced in the classroom through pre and post activities that are driving this home and helping from the very earliest days our kiddos understand some basics around polymers and see its application in everyday life.
Thanks.
I love that. I'm just so excited to partner with GAR because they help support our middle school summer learning. But for me, I don't think it's never too young for a young person to experience polymers in our community. It's almost like every newborn should have a rubber band or a piece of plastic in their crib. We have to make it a part of the culture here right at inception. And when I think about Akron Sneaker Academy, how we're trying to engage, yes, we're focused on that middle school population because that's where kids are kind of thinking like what they want to be and they're kind of shaping their future. But we're even going earlier to some fourth and fifth grade engagement where we're creating a STEM kit that comes inside of a sneaker box. So inside you unbox it with the tissue paper, but there's material science activity, there's a design activity, just going younger and then again making it fun and relevant for our young people. And then also something we're working on now in the past year, how do we engage, young people year round in polymers? Because I think we do a great job with the activities or the special days or summer camp, but we're working on a site right now, downtown Akron, to have year round engagement with polymer innovation at the heart of our community. So it's not just the early entry point, it's year round continuous engagement so our kids can really start to develop the skills they need. So it's a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Oh, thank you. And boy, what innovation to sit there and put arts together with polymers and make something really fun to get the kids engaged at such an early age. So now we're going to kind of focus a little bit more. James, I'm going to bring you back in. University of Akron is #1 in the world for polymer education. So can you help us understand the work that you and other post-secondary institutions are doing to create those pathways and to develop the skills that our polymer industry requires?
Yeah, so once the rest of the group here really plants that seed of these are interesting materials, when we try to create pathways more towards technical training and abilities, beyond just doing outreach, we create a lot of summer opportunities, and we really try to target these for our high school students. They're usually paid internships, and they focus on getting into the laboratory and learning more of the technical aspects of polymers. This really creates not only a valuable skill set and knowledge base for the student, but it also develops some of those relationships where we can then stay involved with the students throughout their career, whether it's at the University of Akron or somewhere else. And Kent State and Case Western also do activities like this, lots of summer programs for our students to gain some technical experience. We also offer, though, retraining and associate degrees. And so the Akron Polymer Training Center is really focused on people that may already be in the workforce and they need to go back and learn how to perform a specific skill like injection molding or rubber testing. And you can come in for a week or 2 week intensive training program. And this really helps us keep our workforce up to date and skilled and mobile between whatever work they may be doing. And then these paths also go to higher levels. Like we just started a bachelor's degree, really starting to provide a polymer education and a polymer degree. It's unique, between the only public school in Ohio that currently offers a degree in polymer science. Case Western also offers a macromolecular engineering degree. And then we build on our traditional master's and PhD programs for that highest level of education as well. But I'll emphasize, as part of the polymer industry cluster, one workforce skill that we've started developing in response to the EDA designation is a life cycle assessment course. So being able to quantify how sustainable a product or process is, this is a fairly new methodology that, it's not very common in the marketplace right now for workers to have this skill. And so now we offer several courses of varying levels and certificates to engage with the curriculum of sustainability. So those are kind of what we've been doing and where we're going in terms of polymer education.
Thank you. I love this. So all these touch points from K through not just K through 12, but K through 16 and beyond, and even for our adult job seekers in that. So bringing in and talking a little bit more about adult job seekers, Megan, how are you working with these polymer companies to align training with real workforce needs? Can you kind of paint a picture for us, and can you share a story of someone who successfully has entered the polymer industry now through the work that we're doing?
Yes, absolutely. So we started really doing our outreach in January of this year, talking to different companies, meeting with them, touring their facilities, and finding out exactly what they need and any challenges they've had in finding candidates. Then when we're working with our participants, we make sure we focus especially our soft skill training because that really seems to be the biggest opportunity. So it meets those needs and they're coached to understand what the job expectations are. From there, we just kind of make sure that the right people are going to the companies that align with their individual interests as well, and kind of being a bit of a matchmaker to an extent. We don't limit anyone, but we still want to make sure people understand the expectations of each company. So it helps kind of paint a picture for the individuals in the program as opposed to, blindly applying for a job on a job board and have no idea of some of that background information. We've had several success stories already, which is a major accomplishment. I'm so proud of my team. One, we'll call him Alex. He started working with us in January of this year. He was going through the Akron CNC training program, and he was honestly doing a career switch. He actually had a bachelor's degree and a little bit of industry experience, but not directly in this field. So we worked with him mostly on soft skills. He needed to build some confidence. He needed to understand workplace communication a little bit more deeply and really practicing those interview skills so he could put his best foot forward when it came to, completing his training and looking for jobs. It took a few interviews, a few different companies for him to find the right place for him. But as of March 26th, he is officially secured as a metallurgical technician. Apologize if I said that wrong. You can tell I'm not a polymer person. But he's at Parker Hannafin, and we stay in touch with him on a monthly basis for the next year to make sure that he's doing well, see if he needs anything, provide any additional coaching, just to make sure he stays on track because we want him to be his best possible self. For him, he had a little bit less barriers. We have other participants who need more support, more coaching, or really just need the confidence to get into this job market. And so it really depends person to person, and we try to meet people where they are to make sure that those matches are long term and they can be financially stable and successful.
Thank you for that. So I know we're getting kind of closer to time, but I'd like for each of you to possibly respond to this. So for employers, nonprofits, and any parents right now that are in the audience, what is the message you'd like to leave, and why should anyone care about the polymer industry? You can go in whatever order.
I'll go since I was just talking. I'll wrap up. From my
Okay.
perspective, there's a career path in the polymer industry for everyone, regardless of background or education level. From a GED or high school level education through PhD and years of experience, there are opportunities, and I've been able to learn that through my experience at JOG. The more we promote these opportunities and explain them in an understandable way, the more we can help individuals in the region find long-term, financially stable employment and to support themselves and their families so they can have full and happy lives. So that's what we're really trying to do in Jobs for Ohio's graduates is make people successful and sustainable and get over that financial stress that often happens when you don't have those types of careers. And the polymer industry can provide those.
Thanks.
I'll hop in next. I think polymers represent an opportunity for us to build an identity as a community that is even more transformative and enduring as some of our historical identity as the rubber capital of the world. I often think of Marcy Ebright at Akron Public Schools saying every kid that grew up in Hershey, Pennsylvania knows chocolate is their industry. And I think there's real transformative power for the future generation to really identify Akron, this greater region, all of Summit County and Northeast Ohio as the polymer capital of the world. So planting those early seeds, so students, community members, we all have that awareness and feel that connectedness and just make sure that our education systems, our community systems, and all of us are orienting in place to make sure our next generation is prepared for the jobs that this industry will bring.
I'll add the community really is pretty unique. I'll share a personal story where I was at a diner recently and the busboy knew vulcanization, and when he learned, somehow we exchanged that I was in polymers, and I'm sitting here talking about vulcanization of rubber with local employee at the diner, and it's just you don't get that with other industries and in other places. And I think it's exciting for the university to really serve as that hub for new students and from all over the world, as well as to elevate the students that we have right here. And so feel free to look up Akron Polymers, and you can find all the different resources we have from degree programs to research support.
Dominique?
I love all the feedback, and this has been a wonderful opportunity. I would say that the one thing I want everyone to take away from this initiative is that, one, it's one of the biggest investments that our community has seen in generations, and it's something we all should be excited about. But I think from my everyday perspective is that we have everything we need already inside our communities to make this, one of the biggest, wins that Akron has seen. We have the talent, we have the brilliance, we have the innovation, and I know the focus has been very top down, attracting businesses and attracting, but I think we have to still cultivate as well. And so I work every day to bring out the brilliance of our young people, especially those residents that may feel a little bit marginalized and stuff. This is the time to bring them to the table and their talents. So I'm on fire about the Polymer Initiative, but I think our future is very, very bright.
Thank you. And we do have some time for some Q&A. I didn't see anything come in through the chat. So if anybody has any questions, if they'd want to put it in, if not, I will probably leave you with the fact I know somebody had brought up Polymer Palooza before. I'm going to put that plug in there because it's a great event. It's a free event for the community to try to get that engagement out. It is geared for, of course, the elementary schools. But I will tell you what, I've seen older siblings and parents there having some fun along with the kiddos throughout the day. They get to go into Akron Children's Museum. There's all different kinds of vendors that are there doing hands-on experiences. So put this date on your calendar, June 6th. It's from 1 to 5. And we hope that we see you all there and we get more people who want to be connected at that event as well. So Hans, I think I don't see any other questions that have come through. And I do have to admit, yes, Dominique, your excitement is infectious. So polymers are fun. Everybody kind of get on board. Hans, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And we really enjoyed our section.
Yeah. Thank you, Jean, and thank you to the panel. Yeah, great conversation. It's really inspirational, but also I think this panel kind of brings home the fact that we want to inspire the community that this is a great initiative for really all of the members of the community. There's something in it for them. So far, we have talked really about the network and the power of the network. We've talked about the innovation and the business panel, talking about the opportunity in that space, and now workforce and talent. So those three pieces are part of the puzzle, right? The last puzzle that piece that we have not yet talked about is the focus on the infrastructure and assets. And the reason that's important is, once we have the talent in place and the network in place, we need to build on the infrastructure and the assets that we have. And it's important to recognize that we're not starting from scratch. Obviously, we've had 125 years of innovation in this space, and assets came along with that. Many of them are still here, and we're very fortunate. Many of them are at the University of Akron, and what you can see on this slide is three facilities and buildings on a campus that you may be familiar with: the Goodyear Polymer Science Center on the lower right, and then on the left, the Polymer Engineering and National Polymer Innovation Center. Those three buildings are on the campus of the University of Akron. And as we looked at the initiative of the Polymer Industry Cluster, we recognized that there was a missing piece that we needed to address. And it's tied to what James Eagan mentioned earlier. A lot of the work that happens early stage is at lab scale, so there's a limited amount of quantities of materials available. And it's very difficult when you have limited quantities to get funding to move your business forward. And so, as part of the Innovation Hub grant, we were awarded $25 million to build a polymer pilot facility and operate it. Now, this pilot facility will fill in a critical piece in the pipeline of innovation that we talked earlier to transition from that early stage across, that scale-up phase. So the pilot facility is designed to allow university researchers, but also startups and established businesses to come in, use that facility for a limited period of time to create quantities of materials that are maybe in the tens or hundreds of pounds. So really still small amounts of material, but very, very flexible space. And that will allow companies to accelerate commercialization. So rather than trying to build these facilities themselves or find a place somewhere where they're given that space, we can offer this facility. It reduces the risk for the company, obviously reduces time and cost. So this is really a unique piece of our innovation ecosystem. We're going to staff it. We have very experienced staff. We already hired the future manager to lead this organization, and he's in the process of now speccing and preparing the facility. It's going to be a great place for training. We're adjacent to the campus, so university students and faculty can engage and support and get trained, but also outside companies can support us. And so this is really the opportunity for us to round out the set of assets that we already have that we continue to build on. Now, in terms of timing, the site location currently has an existing building that's going to be removed here shortly, and then we start groundbreaking later this year and plan to open a facility in 2027. So moving as quick as we can to bring this additional asset to life. So this rounds out the four pieces that we wanted to talk about to bring economic growth to the region. I hope you are as excited about this initiative as I am to bring this to life, to grow it, to grow economic growth, to bring this identity that we already have in some ways: polymers, material innovation, resilience, all of that, bring this back to the region and benefit the entire community really through this effort. So at this point, I'm ready to turn it back to Emily for any closing thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Hans. We put a final call for questions into the chat in case anyone had any lingering questions about all the incredible things they heard today. We will absolutely be sharing this slide deck out with folks, so no worries. You will have everybody's contact information, and you will have the great summary of all the different ways the polymer industry cluster is working to advance the polymer industry here in Greater Akron. Without seeing any additional final questions here, I'm more than happy to shift us to our final piece here. And just first want to thank you again, Hans, for the incredible work that you're leading here today. And just a huge thank you to all of our speakers. Their work is so truly inspiring. I hope you are as excited as I am about everything they're doing here in Greater Akron. We really, really hope we left you with some clear answers on what the polymer industry cluster could mean to you as a business, as an individual, and as someone who's invested in the growth of our region. We end every Elevate Greater Akron webinar with some very tangible next steps. So this is where you come in. This is where you, all of our attendees, come in. We have some calls to action. First, we are asking you, please consider becoming a polymer ambassador. What does that mean? Spread the good word. This is an industry that's here to stay. We really want you to help cultivate interest in STEM, whether that's with your own kids, in your classrooms, with your colleagues. Cultivate that interest because the opportunities, as you heard, are here. And we ask you to execute these calls to action. So one, consider following or even joining the polymer industry cluster. If you and your company might benefit from some of the innovation you heard about today, from some of the partnership you heard about today, from some of the workforce development opportunities you heard about today, please feel free to use this QR code. It'll take you right to the Polymer Industry Cluster page, and you'll learn a lot more there and can get connected with folks. Second, reach out for workforce opportunities. Again, our workforce panel is sharing so many exciting things that are happening for residents of all ages. Jean Barbato of ConxusNEO is our point person here. We have her email address, and we encourage you to reach out. We'll circulate this information after, but please get in touch. If you, your organization, your clients, your classroom, your child wants to learn more about polymer careers, we want to share it. And then finally, you heard a few plugs, which is awesome. Save the date. The Polymer Palooza is back on June 6th. The Polymer Industry Cluster will be hosting this annual event again down in Lock 3, downtown Akron. We invite everyone, all families, to come on down. I've attended it and loved it in the past. And also, we have so many fantastic companies in attendance. If you're interested in hosting a hands-on STEM education table or STEM experiment table at the Polymer Palooza, we'd love to have you. It's free, and we have a QR code here that'll take you directly to the vendor registration. So companies, please consider being vendors, and really everybody in Greater Akron, please plan to come on down to Polymer Palooza. It is a blast. All right, last but not least, just want to make sure you see everybody's contact information. This, of course, is only a slice of the incredible broader team working to advance our region as the Global Polymer Capital and a slice of our Elevate Greater Akron partners. So again, thanks so much for being here. We're happy to give you a little bit of time back, and we hope to see you at our next webinar, which will be on September 16th. Save the date. We would love to see you again to share more of the good work happening with Elevate. Thanks.